Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to do the Bookish Academy Awards tags. That's where it's just a tag where we're going to take all of the Academy Awards that are normally used for movies and we're going to make them bookish. You normally choose the books that you've read within the last year, but since this is the first time I'm doing this tag, I'm going to just choose books that I have read. Most of them within the last year, but I still picked a few that are kind of my favorites, and then I'll move along from there. So let's just get into it. For the first award we have Best Male Actor, or Best Male Main Character in a Leading Role. And for that I chose Rhysand from the Akamath series, Akatar. Especially in this book, obviously he becomes a more main character and a lot more central to the plot and is just perfect. I mean, Sarah J. Maas has a pretty great talent of writing these swoony male characters that everybody falls in love with. They obviously have the flaws, but they work through them and do well with everybody else in there, and he's just caring and obviously like a bad boy, but underneath is just loving and swoon-worthy and, you know, takes one for the team and sacrifices himself for the greater good. As you guys know, if you have read this, that's definitely why he took the cake. Next is Best Female Character or Best Female Actor, and for that one, how can you not go with Aelin from the Throne of Glass series? She as well is kind of a parallel to Rhysand, I guess, in the self-sacrificing and her ability to kind of just do so good. She's just such a good actor. You can't help but like love her and want to root for her through everything that she has to go through, because she gets thrown all of these obstacles and can't be queen because they won't take her, and try not to spoil it for you guys. But if you have followed all of the Throne of Glass books, you will understand what I'm talking about, and there's just nobody that beats Aelin in her just everything. The next Academy Award for the Bookish Awards is Best Cinematography, which is actually Best Plot Twist, and for that I chose Finnegan of the Rock. And this is such a great young adult fantasy book. It's actually like more high fantasy in the way that it takes the world and everything, and Melina Marchetta had put so much thought into this world and the world building that she did to create all of these backstories within these different countries and the kind of war that has been going on, and trying to have so much intrigue that comes through when you're following just these characters. They run into different characters that have had a history with them, and so many people just come from nowhere and you think that they're one person, but they're actually this person who has something very applicable to the plot and the story, and you don't realize it until the very end, and things just happen. It's one of the ones where you just like keep reading and then all of a sudden it clicks in your brain and you're like, wait, she said this at the beginning and there was this person and she said that one thing and that makes her this person, that makes him this person, oh my gosh. And there's just, it's really good. You guys, everybody should read this. Next is the Best Costume Design, and for costume we're going to use a book cover, and for that I have All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. And obviously this book is gorgeous and there's not really much else we can say. It's just, the color scheme is beautiful, and obviously Anthony Doerr's writing is beautiful, so it all fits in well. I'm just very sad that I bought the version that has these kind of sticker things, but they're not stickers, they're ingrained in it, but you know, it's beautiful no matter what, and we will love it. This is a historical fiction book following two characters, a blind girl and a boy in the Nazi regime, whose paths crossed during World War II, and it's just beautiful. Next is Best Supporting Actor, Best Sidekick, and for Male Sidekick I'm gonna go with Kenji from the Shatter Me series. Kenji, I mean, I read this book like 3 years ago, and he's stuck with me just with his humor and his adorable, just like, I don't know how to explain him. He just reacts so well and interacts so well with Juliet, the main character, and Tahereh Mafi just did a really good job, you know, incorporating someone who's not there to be a love triangle and somebody who's just there to be a friend, and they have such good chemistry together just as friends, and it shows like a real platonic relationship where obviously they can both be attractive and like hilarious and joke with each other, but nothing's gonna happen. And it's kind of that brotherly relationship where he's actually your best friend, and the idea of you guys dating would be weird. And Kenji just fits all of that. He's helpful and funny and can lighten the mood and can also kick butt, along with Juliet. So Kenji. And for female, I'm gonna go with literally anybody from a Sarah J. Maas book, because she is so good at writing side characters. You begin to love them as much as you love the main characters. It's not just the main characters you know, and then you kind of know who the side characters, you know their name and like some of their personalities, but here we have actual backstories, and she makes the side characters just as colorful and meaningful and beautiful as everybody else in the book, and you start to love them just as much and just root for them, and they're all wonderful, both in the Throne of Glass series and the ACOTAR series, because we have such good... Here we have Aylin's court for her kingdom, and then in the ACOTAR series we have the inner circle, and they're both just so beautiful. Next we have the best original screenplay, or the most original plot or world building, and funnily enough I decided to go with Lexicon by Max Berry. And this is set in an alternate reality, so it's on Earth, and it's also like in Australia and in the United States, but it's kind of an alternate, like I said, an alternate reality, where there's a school that people who are good with language and kind of good with tricks and knowing things and have smarts are chosen and picked individually to go to this school and learn the secret of language and unlock the lexicon within their brain, because language has power, and they get to know all of the Latin bases and everything, and it ends up that there are specific words that you can use in certain groups and in certain like contexts that will help, that you can control somebody. So your brain is kind of like a safe, so if you use these words you can unlock each different level of a person's mind in order to control them, in order to get their thoughts to change or be able to make them move. And there's one word in particular that just beats all other words, and this has some really good plot twists, and the characters are great, and just there's so much, like there's action, but then there's also just such rich, like it's intellectually stimulating, because you have to think about the psychology of this and how it works with your brain and how words can do that, and like the way that they interact in normal life. And it's colorful and imaginative, and the best original plot that I've read in a while. Next is Best Adapted Screenplay, which is Best Book to Movie Adaptation, and I was trying to think of some really good ones, but obviously not every movie is as good as the book, but there is The Maze Runner, which I actually really liked this series. Not a lot of people do, but I enjoyed it. It's not caliber up there with what I normally read, but this was one of the ones that I kind of just started getting into and was able to fly through them because it was intriguing, there was a lot of action, it was a fast-paced plot. They were able to shift things that didn't make sense in the book to things that did make sense in the movie, because you were able to follow it, some of the problems and the secrets in society. You didn't necessarily just get left in a dead end, and obviously there's no books after they finish, and so you kind of need answers, and the movie was able to make it into something else that really didn't follow the plot of the book, but made it so much better and like more intriguing to watch and to be able to, you know, understand. Next is Best Animated Feature, and that's the best book that would make a great animated movie. A lot of the books that I read are fantasy and, you know, in real life, and so I obviously see them as people and imagine them as people going around, so it's hard to think of something that would be good as like a cartoon or an animated film. But I went with Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli, and this is such a quirky little book. It really reminds me of like the essence of Luna Lovegood and her just personality, and so obviously I would think that Stargirl would be a pretty good like little cartoon character, animated person that we could follow around and kind of see the colorfulness that is her world and that she explains to us and like the whimsy of it. So star roll. Next is Best Director, and that's the best author that you have found within the last year. And I'm gonna go with V.E. Schwab, or Victoria Schwab. Her books are amazing, and I haven't read any. Obviously, I've heard a lot about her books over BookTube and everything. Obviously, Vicious is really popular, and her, the Dark Duet series, and her Darker Shades of Magic, and I finally picked up a Darker Shades of Magic, and she kind of transcends the normal YA tropes, just like stereotypes that continue, and I read a lot of my favorite authors, obviously, like Sarah J. Maas and J.K. Rowling and Cassandra Clare, and you kind of get comfortable with how much the author uses, or like they don't really, I mean, obviously they push their boundaries and they go places, but obviously you think that this is how far they're going to go with their characters. This is how far they're going to do this. And the world isn't going to go completely terrible because you have to have a happy ending and things like that. But when I was reading A Darker Shade of Magic, I haven't finished this series. I'm currently reading A Gathering of Shadows. But it was so cool because things went bad and then they kept going bad. And I was like, this is not good. Obviously bad things are happening and we need to fix them, but they weren't fixed right away, and then it just kept happening and you weren't kind of in a safe zone. A little bit like reading like a more entertaining Game of Thrones. The book version, obviously the TV show is perfect and great and entertaining, but reading Game of Thrones is a little dense, but things go badly. And V. Schwab's not afraid of continuing to have bad things happen, but still having redeeming things happen, and kind of waits to the last second. And she's just really, really colorful and has amazing world building, and the characters are so rich and have flaws, but are like, you care about them. They're not like redeemable, not every one of them, but they're just really good and relatable, and you just want to follow and continue with them in their journeys. Next is Best Visual Effects, Best Action in a Book, and I'm gonna go with Mistborn, Brandon Sanderson. This book, it's a high fantasy in this world where people have this magic system that they consume metal and they can burn it, and it gives them powers to be able to do things. And if you can burn one type of metal, you're a misting. If you burn multiple types of metal, you're a Mistborn. And it is so awesome. It's obviously a big book, it's kind of intimidating, it's high fantasy, but it is so worth it to get into, and you go through it so quickly, and the characters are amazing, and the fights and the wars that they're going into, and everything is just described so colorfully, and you know exactly what's happening, and their magic system is so visually enticing that you just want to read more, and like you can imagine how they do it, because some authors, you know, you're reading along and sometimes they like skip an action scene, they just kind of go to the what happens next and maybe write something about the fight didn't go well, somebody broke their arm, something. But here he goes through each action sequence and he gets to show you exactly how they're moving and what they're just doing, and it's so great. It's just really great. This is Best Documentary, and that is the best nonfiction or historical fiction novel, and I'm gonna go with Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This book was so amazing. This is the best book I read all summer, and my mom and I listened to it in the car. We were doing a road trip down to visit my brother, and it has still stuck with me. It is so like soul burning. I love reading about history, and seeing it in this different aspect was so awesome. So The Nightingale follows two different sisters who are stuck in France during World War II. And personally, I hadn't read or had seen anything or been taught anything about France during World War II. We just kind of made jokes about, oh, the French are good at surrendering. Here's the French salute, the hands up. Obviously it's not like that, but now didn't know their side of the story. And following these two sisters who have very different parts to play during the war, and just how it affected the home front, and instead of people like me in America hear about like our part in the war but don't necessarily hear about everything that happened while it was going on in Europe. And it was so just eye-opening and like heart-wrenching, and it was just such a wonderful tale of family and loss and love and the part of humanity that you don't get to see a lot, and Kristen Hanna just did such a good job showing that through both sides, and even having some flashbacks as it was being told in the present, and I was just, there's really no words. Like, it still hits me now whenever I think about it, that it was just so good, and everybody should read it. Just go read it. And lastly is Best Picture, so Best Overall Novel. And I'm going to choose one that I already used, but again, it was so amazing, and that is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Because everything that I said about it before, the world is just so rich and colorful, and Brandon does such a good job with his characters. They're hilarious and funny, and also have just like their quirks, and everybody is different. Go on this journey and can see them, every single character arcs differently, and you get to follow all of them. It's not just one person's mind, you get to jump into everybody's brain and follow them, and Kelsier is just hilarious, and I love just everybody in there. They all just have special places in my heart that I just can't wait to continue with the series, and so I'm waiting for them to show up. I ordered them on Book Depository like 3 weeks ago, and I'm waiting because I want to read the second and the third one. So hopefully they'll get here soon, and I can continue to enjoy my Best Picture of the year. Alright, you guys, that was the Bookish Academy Awards tag. Again, I'm sorry about the lighting, but it is dark now, and I am gonna go. I hope you guys had a fantastic day, and I will talk to you later. Bye!